that allow people to build encampments that obstruct the pathway to classes and the opportunity to learn is terrorism.
So our next guest weighed in on the rash of campus protest at a news conference today. Let's bring in Rabbi Chaim Mentz from Chabad of Bel Air here in Los Angeles, Israeli Special Operations veteran Aaron Cohen, and the Republican nominee in Senate for California, Steve Garvey. Thank you all for coming on. Steve, to you first. That was you talking about this thing. You are condemning these anti-Israel protests on campuses. Tell us why, Steve.
That's right, Trace. Today was a day of political courage, running for the U.S. Senate against my opponent, Adam Schiff. Today was standing up with my friends to be outspoken, to talk about terrorism under the guise of free speech. And what I wanted to explain was all these are systematic organizations at college campuses, almost a franchise, by a dark underside of our society that's imploding this great country we live in.
He talked about the dark underside, Rabbi, and I'm wondering what you think, going back to common sense, about these students, and you ask them questions and they have no idea why they are out there protesting.
Exactly. They really do not know. In fact, if anybody really knew the history of everything, they would know there was never Palestinian people before 1964. It was Yasser Arafat that came up with it because Jordan was kicking them out. They were all Jordanian citizens. But they're not hearing that narrative.
No.
If they only studied a little bit.
They only went back and did a little bit of a refresher, and they might learn more about this. Meantime, the big headlines, the big statements being made from the Middle East are the terrorists are supporting these students. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. The quote is, "We highly value the positions, movements, and struggle of our students in American universities." The National Desk headline reads the following: Hamas terrorists back anti-Israel campus protests. Leaders of the future. Terror groups supporting the students makes sense. What do you think?
Spoken like a true terror group. Here's the thing, Trace. Rhetoric and incitement for the purpose of delivering propaganda is one of the main vehicles that we in the counterterror business look at very closely. I'll take it back to Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, the spiritual leader of Hamas, who we assassinated in 2004. The amount of educational material that led to a river of blood, Trace, that he put into the educational system of the Palestinian youth is the reason why we are seeing the level of hatred towards the Jews from the Palestinians. And now Hamas has been able to systematically infiltrate the American academia institutions. And it's only going to get worse. And this is how this goes. The threat level only goes up. The onus will fall on law enforcement, Trace. Steve's a big supporter of law enforcement, which is why I joined him today. And the fact is that we're just going to see more and more of this nonsense get more violent, and it's the cops who are going to have to deal with it and the first responders.
Talking about what's happening here in California, the University of Southern California, USC, has now canceled its commencement ceremonies, the big ceremonies there. They stopped the valedictorian from having her speech. It seems as if they are allowing these anti-Israel protesters to kind of control the narrative, Steve.
Well, this is about leadership, the crisis of leadership. Presidents of our university have to stand up. They're supposed to create a safe environment. It's also about the people who can really make a difference, like Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon. He can prosecute these terrorists to the full extreme of the law. And this will send a message. I guarantee you they will start to disseminate from these rallies.
Yeah, it may. I mean, it may happen and it may get bigger. It may go to other universities. Meantime, we talked about the terrorist rabbi who came out and said, hey, we support these American students. Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, says the following. Watch him.
What's happening on America's college campuses is horrific. Anti-Semitic mobs have taken over leading universities. They call for the annihilation of Israel. They attack Jewish students. They attack Jewish faculty. This is reminiscent of what happened in German universities in the 1930s.
If they went back to the mid-1930s, Rabbi, they would have a very clear image of exactly what he's talking about.
100%. What's going on is, first denounce the Jew. They are the weakest ones. But Hitler did not stop with the Jew. He went after the rest of the world. If anybody thinks that this was first about Israel, then it came to America, it's about the Jew. But now you're starting to hear, it's not about Israel or the Jew. We're coming after you, America. And America better wake up.
Yeah. Aaron, your thoughts? I mean, you kind of strategize a lot. I'm wondering, Steve was saying maybe this thing dissipates. Do you think these are gaining momentum, these protests around the country, or are they losing momentum?
I think they're going to gain momentum. I think they're continuing to gain momentum. And I can tell you from experience, the longer this threat continues to metastasize, the greater the risk to U.S. national security. They need to be dismantled immediately, these encampments. There is a very, FBI Director Christopher Wray said in the last 6 months, red flashing lights everywhere. Now the lights are double flashing right now. Not only must they be dismantled immediately, but anti-terrorism laws, in my opinion, and I'm not a lawyer, but the law needs teeth. Steve spoke to it. The investigations need to start happening into the source, the money, the financing. Follow the trail, and you're going to find out who is behind this radicalization systematically.
Aaron Cohen, Steve Garvey.